India's third moon mission. Chandrayaan 3's Vikram lander is set to undergo a crucial deboosting maneuver today at around 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time after being separated from the propulsion module yesterday. The Indian Space Research Organisation has announced that the landing module, comprising the Vikram lander and Pragyan rover, has successfully separated from the propulsion module, marking a significant milestone in the mission. Meanwhile, another milestone is slated to take place today itself, that is the deboosting. To explain to all of you what exactly deboosting is, in layman terms, it refers to the process of slowing down a spacecraft by reducing the thrust, typically to achieve a stable orbit. Joining us on the broadcast this morning to discuss more is Group Captain V.N. Jha, former Joint Director of the DRDO. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on NewsX. While I gave a very layman explanation of what exactly this is, could you explain to our viewers in a little more detail what exactly the deboosting process is about?
Very good, very good morning, Priya, and to all your viewers. Yes, you are trying to just explain to your viewers what exactly it is going to be. Look, till now, yesterday what has happened is that the combination of the propulsion module and the lander, Chandrayaan 3 module, that has been decoupled. Decoupling means it was united, it has just separated out. And in that separated out condition, which, there is no atmosphere at the moon. So at that altitude, even a slight bit of air molecules may not be there. So there is no inertia, there is no resistance to any movement. So it will continue rotating around the moon. And since yesterday, it must be going like that. In the last about, say, in this day, after the decoupling has happened, thereafter, there are series of tests that ISRO must be performing onto the lander module. Rover, of course, is inside the lander module. That will come out only when lander makes a soft landing and then the door opens. Then only it will come out. Right now, it is the lander module which is in the focus for all tests and trials. So yesterday, after separation, ISRO must have carried out more than 100 odd tests to just check that everything is fine with the lander while traveling from the Earth to the moon till the time the decoupling has happened. Today, they are planning to deboost, that means further lower the orbit of the lander and make the final preparations for the landing subsequently, as we understand it is on 23rd. Now, entire phase of operation right now from the takeoff, or rather the rocket taking the craft on 14th of last month, till this time, till the landing, till everything is deployed, entire phases have been divided into 10 phases as per ISRO. Yesterday, the 5th phase has culminated by the separations of the two. And today, the deboosting phase is phase 6. In this deboosting, there are two aspects. One is to lower the altitude further. Right now, as you understand, it is in the 153 into 163 orbit that the propulsion module had taken it there. After decoupling, they would have, opened the throttle, tested the engine. In that process, it would have come certainly a few bit of altitude down. How much, we don't know. Even ISRO has not tweeted or informed us. But after the deboosting happens, its velocity is further reduced. And the moment velocity is reduced, its centrifugal force decreases. With the centrifugal force decreasing, the gravity of moon will pull it down further. So the lowering of altitude is a product of the deboosting. So that will happen. Up to what altitude this deboosting will bring the Chandrayaan 3 is anyone's guess right now, but we understand that ISRO would like to keep it in a orbit of about 100 into 30 or 40 kilometers, from where subsequently in the pre-landing phase, they would try to bring it exactly on the path from where the landing profile, landing trajectory of the craft is scheduled to be there. It is already planned. So those few operations will be going on with the deboost today. It will go towards an orbit from where they will fine tune the exact path, that the path is over the area where the landing is supposed to be there. You know that we understand that the landing spot right now is on the South Pole, and that South Pole too is exactly to be, I think it is 69.367 degree south. It is not exactly on the pole. That is on the 69 degree or 70 degree south, and 32.36 degree east. That is the place what Orbiter 2 has given to ISRO, that particular stretch of the land, which is about 2.5 to 4 kilometers surface area, looks to be plain. When it comes for landing, it has got sufficient fuel this time to maneuver itself for the exact flat surface where it will make the final landing. So these are the processes that are there. But I must tell you, right now the lander is revolving around the moon in a perfect orbit, where it can continue for months and years in case if it is not to land. But surely it is going for landing. That is why this deboost will bring further closer to the surface of the moon, onto which the predicted path to the trajectory for landing exists, or it rests. So that is the effort that we will be seeing today. Yeah.
Indeed, sir. Speaking of the deboost process, and you mentioned the orbit towards the end, we're getting to know that there are two terms that are cropping up at this point. One is perilune, that is the orbit's closest point to the moon, which is about 30 kilometers, and apollune, which is the furthest point from the moon of the current orbit, which is about 100 kilometers. Could you explain these terms for our viewers so that they can understand it a little more clearly?
Yes. Any orbit around a planet or any object, whether it is Earth or the Moon or the Mars or the Venus, that orbit may be either the totally circular, like this Chandrayaan 3. It was scheduled initially by ISRO to be placed in 100 into 100 kilometers that we learned earlier. But finally, when that permanent orbit has been given a couple of days earlier, it is in 153 into 163 kilometers. I'll try to explain to you. Suppose if this is Earth, this is the globe Earth. Suppose if it is Moon. Now, Chandrayaan is going around in the polar axis, and the farthest point that the orbit goes is known as apollune. That is the maximum opposite distance from the surface. And when it comes for on the other side, it is the closest point. That closest point is known as perilune. For the moon, we call it lune, and for the Earth, it is perigee or apogee that we call it in the Earth. So that is how it is there. The closest point in the case of the deboosting is expected to be anything from 30 to 40 kilometers. Whatever altitude comes up there, it's of no criteria, because on moon there is no atmosphere. Where it is at 30 kilometers or 40 kilometers, that doesn't have much of say, except that the trajectory what is planned for the final landing, if that trajectory starts from 30 kilometers, they would like to keep it at exactly 30 kilometers, and the orientation of the axis will be exactly over the place where the landing is scheduled. So that is what is you explained as a perilune, is the closest point from the surface of the moon, and the apollune is the farthest point from the surface of the moon. It may not be a circular orbit when it goes for landing. It could be an elliptical orbit. Obviously, it is not circular because the shortest point we mentioned is 30 to 40 kilometers, and the furthest point could be 100 kilometers or even 120, 130, 140 kilometers. So that is what it is to be. We will finally know what exactly is the uplume and the perilume after the deboosting happens. Yeah.
Indeed, sir. So stay on with us, because now I'd like to take my viewers through something rather interesting. Well, we were just talking about how the moon is all set for the deboosting at around 4 p.m. today, and the landing is slated to take place on the 23rd of August. So all eyes are on that. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what is exactly there on the moon's south pole, and let's also take a look at what makes it so fascinating. First up, the occurrence of water ice in permanently shadowed areas around the South Pole. Remember, viewers, Chandrayaan 2 was the very mission that had discovered the presence of water on the moon's surface. There are also unique craters where sunlight cannot reach their interiors. This is another aspect that our third moon mission is in fact looking at probing. In fact, some of these craters in the moon's south pole have not received sunlight for billions of years. Yes, viewers, this is another rather fascinating fact about the moon. Temperatures over there at the south pole of the moon can dip as low as -203 degrees Celsius. This is, of course, way below the freezing point. In fact, cold traps that contain fossil records of hydro as well as water ice and other volatiles dating from the early solar system are also over there. So this is, of course, yet another fact that makes the moon's south pole very fascinating. And last but not least, these craters hold key clues to early life. Now, I'd like to rope in Group Captain Jha back into the discussion. I've discussed with you many times before that, of course, our Pragyan rover is looking at conducting in situ scientific experiments on the moon. And you've also earlier discussed with us what are the potential of a groundbreaking discovery. So do you still stand by your earlier statements that you had stated that perhaps there can be a major breakthrough that India may achieve?
Yeah, see, we are going all the way to the moon for carrying out many experiments, but most important that the technology of landing onto a planet or a moon or a satellite, that is something which is very, very unique and very intricate. So experiments, of course, is in the area that we have chosen on towards the South Pole, which is least contaminated from the impacts of the asteroids or the many of the impacts that keep on coming from the deep space. So that is the area where we are likely to have a surface which is as original as the moon is. Moon is described as one of the unique things in the entire history of the Earth. That there are stories, there are the nighttime stories, there are the daytime stories, there are the dream and love stories about the moonlight. How does that moonlight is so soothing to everyone? Why so much of strong reflection of the sunlight is there in the moonlight that we see from the sun, and yet so soothing, so cool, so enjoying. So all these have been the imaginations all through. So obviously there is a curiosity in the entire humanity to know what is the moon made of. So that is the effort that we are going to the South Pole, where we are likely to find the surface which is most likely to be uncontaminated or least contaminated with the impacts of various objects from the deep space. That is one thing. Secondly, as I have been also getting a lot of questions these days. Russia also has sent its craft that is going to land before why India cannot land before the Russia. Look, this is not the race. I'll try to, do you have some time? I can explain this to your viewers.
Yes, sir, sure.
Suppose if this is the moon, this is the North Pole and this is the South Pole. On the South Pole, we are going to land. Now, if you can see two spots, two circles here.
Yes,
Can
sir.
your viewers see? Okay, so the forward spot is the one where Russia is going to land. That is at about 42° east. That is further ahead that we are going to do. So as moon rotates, when the sunrise is going to be happening there, Russia will make a landing. Now this is 10° forward to, actually 12° forward to our location. So sunrise will happen earlier here. That is why Russia has planned to go earlier, 2 days earlier. So they will land here at the time of sunrise, and we at that time are in the dark. We won't like the craft to land in the darkness and then remain there for another 2 days till the time sunrise happens. That is why we are waiting for another 2 days. When our intended spot for landing comes up in the sunrise area, so that the solar panel of the lander can take the sunlight for generating the electricity. So that is why we are going 2 days late. It is not the race. It is the spot of landing on the moon that decides when you make the landing. Both India and Russia would like to land their craft at the time when the sunrise has happened, either immediately after the sunrise or maybe a day or two later after the sunrise, so that adequate solar energy come to the solar panel to generate the electricity, so that all the experiments which is being intended can be carried out there. And another thing, that this experiment is scheduled right now for 1 lunar day, which is equivalent to 14 Earth's day. Now that is the span of the daytime there on the moon. Suppose if the experiment is not complete, at the end of the day, towards the evening of the moon, all the computer systems, everything of the Chandrayaan will shut down. It will go to sleep. Like we have got the laptop, when we want to close it down for a short time, we put it under the sleep. So all the systems will go in the sleep, and another 14 days later, again when the sunrise happens at that area where our craft is there, again sunlight will come to the solar panel, again energy will come there, and all of us, we understand that it will keep on working for many lunar day or maybe even months for the experiments to carry it out. But right now, intended the duration or span of experimentation is 1 lunar day, the daytime of those 14 days, from the morning, sunrise till the sunset that it is planned. Priya.
Indeed, sir. As you all know, viewers, the entire world at this point is watching with bated breath for the landing of the Chandrayaan-3 near the south pole of the moon. Meanwhile, Group Captain Jha, how do you think potential discoveries will benefit mankind?
Well, I told you the imaginations, what we know about the moonlight, moon surface, all these are the Chanda Mama and everything that we know of. Even we know what the materials are on the surface. US has brought, during its Apollo mission in the late 60s and 70s, samples from the moon surface. So has done the Russians, so has done the Chinese recently. But those are the samples from the in and around equator, where maximum contaminations of the impacts of asteroids or the comets from outer space have been there. So what samples they have brought may not be necessarily the original moon's surface, original moon's soil. We call it regolith. So it may not be exactly the same. So that is the reason why we are sending our rover, which will come out of the lander. It has got a tether line, an umbilical cord, which will take it to the distance, maybe 10 meters or 20 meters away from the lander, and that tether line ensures that the electrical supply continues from here despite the rover having its own solar panel. Suppose rover goes to a shadow place, then there will be no electrical supply. So to ensure, this cord line will ensure two things. One, that it remains in contact with the electrical supply, and the data line. Whatever experimentation rover is doing, it is supposed to send it back to the lander. From the lander, it comes to the propulsion module, which is right now orbiting. From propulsion module, that data will go to the Indian Deep Space Network higher up, and from there it will come to the ground station either in the Europe or to India, both in contact. So that is how the data is going to be linked. Now, when this rover goes to perform two important tests, one is the alpha particle X-ray spectrometer that will analyze the regolith, that the soil of the moon, that what it contains, what it is made of, what is its chemical composition. And the another one, there is a very interesting another sensor, that is the laser spectrometer, and that laser spectrometer will send the laser wave deep into it and then analyze what are the elements in the surface of the moon. That is very important. I have been repeatedly stressing about that. Should there be 109th newer element, that the new invention or discovery, whatever you can call it, it could be the discovery, whether there is a 109th, 110th element of the periodic table going to be found in the moon, that laser LIBS, that the name is given, laser induced I think breakdown of a spectroscope. This is what will find that element, what are there in the lunar surface. So it is basically, it will tell you which all elements are in the surface, and these data will be found out, and it will be transmitted to the Earth for our scientists to continue their reading the analysis, analyzing the data, what exactly it is. And that analysis may take weeks, months, and years to come. That is what is very, very interesting. These two data will be there. Lander also has got some instruments onto it, which will be basically to find out if there are any vibration, seismic activity taking place in the surface of the, inside the surface of the moon. Secondly, it will also make the mapping of the thermal, environment, thermal sort of scope in and around the surface of the moon. And there is one more, there is no atmosphere at the moon, but yet there are some vagabond atoms, molecules traveling here and there. So even that will be tracked by the lander, which is on the surface of the moon. So these three experiments by the lander and the two very specific experiments by the rover will be conducted, and we are fairly convinced that all these aims are going to be achieved fairly successfully by the ISRO team. They have been working for months and years together onto it, and it seems that they are right now going absolutely on the right track, and it is going to be a success. Wishing ISRO team all the very best for all their effort. Yeah.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.